A lot of people think that cryptocurrency is about money, but what if I told you it was actually the next version of the internet? That's why we call it Web3. And that if you use the internet, you already understand the foundation of blockchain and cryptocurrency. In today's lesson, I'm going to help you understand the history of the internet so you can see how blockchains and tokens and cryptocurrency will help us evolve the web into what it was always meant to be. In the early 1990s, the internet was read-only, and we call this era Web 1. Anybody who had the requisite hardware and know-how could get online, but once you got there wasn't a lot to do. It was kind of like a pioneer settlement in the Old West. Sure, you could go shoot your gun anywhere you wanted, but was there a doctor? Were there restaurants? Were there theaters? No. And the websites were mostly static. You couldn't really participate in creating the way we can today. There were no usernames, there was no logging in, there were no comments, there was no social media, no commerce. Then in the early 2000s, companies like MySpace and eBay made it possible for everyday people like us, not just to read information on the internet, but to participate in creating it for the first time as well. This is known as the Web 2 era, or the read-write era, and it's the era of the internet we find ourselves in right now. Just like those Old West towns became cities connected by highways where lots of people lived, epicenters of culture, Web 2 apps and websites are dynamic places where people can participate in buying and selling things, in making content like this, in learning, in doing their jobs. Napster, Facebook, Amazon. The cool thing about Web 2 is it's pretty easy for anybody to get online. In fact, more people right now have access to the internet than have access to clean drinking water. But the problem with Web 2 is that you don't really own anything. About 5 companies control 90% of the web traffic, and we use it at their discretion. Users interact with each other, but they don't really own anything. For example, even though I've spent the last 5 years creating content here on TikTok, if TikTok gets banned, I can't take the follower relationships, the likes, the shares that I have with me. When I create a video that gets 1 million views, I might get paid $1,000, even though TikTok makes a lot more money from ad revenue. The big platforms sell the data you provide at your expense, and they don't share the value with you because they don't have to. You've agreed to their terms and conditions, and as a result, you can be censored, you can be deplatformed, and you don't get to share in the value that is created. It all just flows right to the top. That video you bought on Amazon, it's going to disappear after a year. Your Netflix account is a subscription, and it goes on forever and ever. Companies are moving away from selling you physical copies of things and towards selling you digital copies of things that they essentially rent to you over and over. And this is where Web 3 comes in. Web 1 made it possible for people like us to access the internet. Web 2 invited us to participate in creating it, and Web 3